Some of the more common and difficult interview questions you're going to be asked during your Nvidia interview process are the behavioral interview questions. They are very popular and much more challenging to answer than a standard interview question. In today's video, I'm going to give you some of the actual behavioral interview questions that Nvidia asked during their interview process, and I'm going to teach you from a recruiter's perspective exactly what to say to answer them in the right way. Now, this is video 2 of a 4-part series on how to get a job with Nvidia. So if this is your first video that you've seen, make sure you go and watch the first video. You can find it in the playlist. And at the very end of this video, make sure you watch to the very end. I will tee up the next one on the screen so you can seamlessly go from video 2 to video 3 and all the way through. And my promise to you is that if you watch all 4 videos that I've created on how to get a job in Nvidia, you will be better than 95% of the candidates who are going to interview them, and you will put yourself in a great position to land the job. All right, let's get started. Okay, so what is a behavioral interview question? A behavioral interview question is basically a question that asks you to recall a previous experience and walk the interviewer through how you handled the situation. They are typically difficult or tense situations, and they're trying to get an idea of how you deal with these challenging situations as an employee. Now, they ask these questions because past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. So having you walk them through how you handled and navigated a challenging situations gives them a glimpse into what you will be like as an employee. So they are very popular questions to ask. Now, the way you can tell that you are being asked a behavioral interview question is it'll start with a phrase like, give me an example of a time when, or can you tell me about a time when, or walk me through an example of a time when, basically. But if you hear of a time when, you are being asked a behavioral interview question. Now, when you're asked a behavioral interview question, you want to use a strategy to answer it called the STAR method. Now, the STAR method is just a framework to help you answer behavioral interview questions, and it's designed to make sure you walk through all the necessary details in a concise and effective way. And the STAR method is an acronym. The acronym stands for situation, task, action, and result. What was the situation you were in? Like, where did you work? What was the role? Task, what was the specific thing you had to handle? Action, what was the specific action you took in the situation? And our result, what was the outcome? What happened in the situation? And in some circumstances where there was a learning that you can take away from it and apply moving forward, throw an L on the end for lesson. What did you learn and what can you apply moving forward? Now, if you use this framework to answer behavioral interview questions, you'll do great. Now, let's get into the actual behavioral interview questions that Nvidia asked during their interview process. Now, the first question is, tell me about a time you failed. Now, whenever I get this question or someone asks me, how do you answer this? There's a few things I say. First, use the STAR method, situation, task, action, result. But then I like to tell people to use the first 50% rule. And what this means is you give an example of a time you failed that's in the first 50% of your career. If you've been in the workforce for 8 years, have it happen during the first 4. If you've been in the workforce for 20 years, have it happen during the first 10. And if you've been in the workforce for 3 years, have it happen during the first 1.5 years of your career. And the reason I say this is it allows you to be authentic and really give the details of where you made a mistake, but you also put some distance between where you are right now and when you made the mistake, right? It's not, hey, I made a huge mistake yesterday at my job. It's like in the first half of my career, I made a mistake. And what's really important when you're answering this is you have a lesson from it. You are made better by this mistake. So, STAR method, first 50% of your career, be authentic. Don't have it be a fake thing. This needs to be like, okay, this is real. They're not going to look at that and go, that's not really a mistake, right? Don't give the political answer. Give a true mistake that you made. It can't be too egregious, right? You couldn't burn down the office. You can't punch your boss. Like, things like that are just going to be bad, no matter how far away it was, right? It can't be something like that. And if you do those things, and finally, that you learn from it, if you do those things, you're going to do great. That's how you answer that question. The next question is a really common one. Tell me about a time you disagreed with your manager. It's really important here that you use the STAR method. Also, the disagreement can't be disrespectful, right? A good example of an answer that works here is that your boss told you to do something, but they were unaware of some information that made something else a priority. So you went to them and said, hey, I know you wanted me to do this, but I'm not sure if you're aware, blank. So in my opinion, it probably makes sense to prioritize blank, and then I can do that, right? That's a time that you disagreed with your boss. You disagreed about priorities or an approach. And then it's really important that you have a respectful dialogue, and you resolve it amicably, right? You can't have a disagreement in which you end up like fist fighting your boss or, storming out. It has to be respectful, professional, and at the end of the day, you reach a conclusion in which you both feel good about. That is the type of answer you want to use for this question. The next question is, tell me about a time you faced a tight deadline with limited resources. Now, what Nvidia is looking for here is they want to understand how you deal with a situation like this, because it's not uncommon that you're going to have tight deadlines. In all of corporate America, you're probably going to be in situations where you have tight deadlines. And limited resources, as we are, if we're in a tight economy, it's kind of typical to have to do more with less, right? So what they want to know is, how do you navigate these situations? So, you want to use the STAR method, as always, but you want to walk them through your rationale, right? Like this is a situation I'm in. This is a goal I had to respond, I had to achieve. In this situation, I didn't have all the resources that I would typically have because of blank, right? There's a constraint that you understand sometimes happens in business. And then they want to hear you talk through your strategy. How are you able to accomplish this goal in less than ideal circumstances? That is what they're getting at here. They want to understand your thought process, your attitude towards handling it, and your ability to solve with less. And those are the things you need to make sure you communicate through this process. It's also really important that when you're describing this, you can't be overly negative about it. It can't be, well, this company, they never gave me what I needed, so of course I had limited resources. You have to be reasonable and understanding that, hey, sometimes this is a thing, and you see it as a challenge that you are willing to overcome, and in some ways, you look forward to that kind of thing, right? These type of problem solving, this is where you succeed, this is where you excel. Because the reality is, if they're asking you a question like this, it's because you might need to find yourself in a situation where you do this. And they can't have someone who looks at it negatively. So make sure that comes across in your answer. Now, another question you're going to get asked, and you need to nail it because it's maybe the most important question you're going to get asked in the Nvidia interview process, is why do you want to work for Nvidia? And it's why I made this video here. This video here is a huge tour de force on everything you need to know to nail that question, because I do feel like it's the most important question you will get asked in the process. So I'm done here, but you need to go watch that video. It's the next in the series. I'll see you over there.